yeah, hey. When it come down to it and you send it through, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you slept on me, now you ask for the handout, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you talk about business, you ain't talking about millions, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you wanna be a part of my life, tryna stay the night, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. Got a new spot, living like a vacation, feeling good, I don't need any validation. All my debt been paid in, and when the boat starts sinking, I'ma save it. Pulling everybody up, keeping all the money tucked. Talk to my pops and he told me that I'm proud of you, but I'm not done yet, not until his sunset. Putting everything on my back like the ground wet. I don't wanna talk if you ain't tryna listen. I don't need 2 cents, I'ma need $1 million. Started from the bottom and I haven't hit my ceiling. I don't want a room, I be tryna buy the whole damn building. What up? When it come down to it and you send it through, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you slept on me, now you ask for the handout, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you talk about business, you ain't talking about millions, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you wanna be a part of my life, tryna stay the night, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. Forgive me for my honesty, I'm unapologetic. Could've signed a deal, but I'd rather have the leverage. Tell me what to do, but I never got the message. The game needs saving, I be feeling like the medic. Gotta start move around with an NDA. Everybody safe in my bubble like the NBA. Paying off the refs when they tryna play. I don't need the cheat codes, I'ma find a way. I be moving like a king, like LeBron with the ring. You ain't seen what I seen, how you tell me what to be. In Miami, I'm surrounded by some models. I done put in my time, now I get to live how I want it, come on. When it come down to it and you send it through, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you slept on me, now you ask for the handout, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you talk about business, you ain't talking about millions, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. When you wanna be a part of my life, tryna stay the night, I'ma hit you back like nah, nah, nah. I'm feeling out of sight and I'm running out of time. You've been trying to test my patience and you studying my mind. I've been trying to work it out, but I'm not stronger than the lies. I've been thinking about it, thinking about living without it, but I've been fighting the feeling and I've been losing, not winning. I wanna stay in the moment. When I'm with you, I be zoning. And girl, it feel like the ocean, but I've been having trouble floating. Girl, you know I wanna stay down, but I didn't mean to do you like that. But I didn't mean to use you like that. I've been going day to day, trying not to fade away. I don't wanna separate from you, but we got our different ways. We've been playing different games. I don't wanna change, but I got to. Ay, I've been living in the fast lane, trying to get this cash, man. Turn me to a savage, didn't mean to damage anything that you got going. Should've talked about it, I got caught in the moment. But I love when you come and you stay for the night. I've been working a lot and you keeping me right, and I wanted it. I don't wanna flip, but I'm thinking long term, and I don't think you want the life I live. Girl, you know I wanna stay down, but I didn't mean to do you like that. Girl, you know that I've been playing around, but I didn't mean to use you like that. I've been going day to day, trying not to fade away. I don't wanna let's go. My mind been working like a mile a minute. It took a little time, but I'm back to business. I'm coming all year cause I had to finish. And the flow too sick, that's a real pandemic. Everyone dropping some mid these days. I only listen to my own shit these days. And as a lady, be looking like a real thin line between jealousy and hate these days. What's the problem? I don't ever got one. I done paid my dues and now I'm back to balling. A lot of options I got involved and I don't make the rules, but I be shot calling. I never faking, my bank inflated. My brother just called like, damn, you made it. They busy hating, I'm stacking paper. They sold, now they friends with Satan. I'm doing what I wanted when I started as a kid, and ain't nobody thinking I would end up like this. I've never been the type to get caught up in the mix. I'd rather be alone, spending time in the crib. Rap game looking like high school now, and everybody buying some fake views now. I ain't never been too scared of defeat, and my fans know I'ma stay 10 toes down. I take a risk, I put my own money up. My homies solid and they know who I trust. These rappers capping when they showing me love. They calling me bro, but we never met up. What's the motive? I don't second guess it. I've been the coldest, my ice expensive. I'm in control and that's not to mess with. I'm climbing up while they see the exit. Yeah, 2022 I'm here. Schoolboy Q on a man of the year. I got big plans that a man should fear, and I bet on myself, got a gambling career. The conversation got my name deleted. The tables turn, but I still be feeding. The haters mad, they got another reason. Bazed you back for another season. Ride around town with a top down. West Coast girl, but she home now. I wanna make love with you. I wanna wake up with you. Oh yeah. We staying up late till the morning. See the sunrise and we on it. I wanna make love with you. I wanna wake up with you. Oh yeah. She living out west, but she from the east. I told her I needed her company, cause she the only one who really knows everything I go through, trying to make it in the industry. And lately I've been stressed out, but she told me slow down, boy, you know that you blessed now. She really got away with the words, they be hitting me right like she been my missing piece. She calling Postmates for a plate now, but you the only one I wanna take out. We gonna take it slow for the night, doing everything you like, and I'm never gonna fade out. I'll be right here till the morning. You looking kinda cute when you snoring, but baby just tell me what you want and I'll get it all done, cause nothing's more important. Ride around town with a top down. West Coast girl, but she home now. I wanna make love with you. I wanna wake up with you. Oh yeah. We staying up late till the morning. See the sunrise and we on it. I wanna make love with you. I wanna wake up with you. Oh yeah. Known you for a while, but it's like we just met. This a new time, but we acting like when the music didn't make a change in my life. Now it's VIP, everything all night. Took you to the game and we hit the show too. Maybe next time we can hit Nobu.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good morning. I'm glad to say we always have that like nice spread of folks all the way across the gamut. Saw people from LinkedIn talking about morning in Australia. No Fix at 42 is in chat. It's midnight where she's at. Glad to see everybody. Whoa, we got a Monday stream going on. Do you guys realize this? Did I get my days confused? Mods, what's happening? Why are we streaming on a Monday? I'll get to that. It is great, as always, to see you. Just in case that you're new here or you've had amnesia since the last time we streamed, my name is Neil Bridges, and you're tuned into the Cyber Insecurity channel. Audio's a bit low. What is going on? That's not good. Try that, Brian. See if that fixed it. Audio's a bit low. I didn't change anything. God, I didn't change anything. Anyway, welcome to the Cyber Insecurity stream, everybody. The show where the points are made up and they don't matter. I don't know, something like that. Anyway, it is Monday. We are trying a new stream schedule. When I say trying a new stream schedule, you'll notice that we've kind of picked back up the streams here in a little bit. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. Got some updates for you on that. I don't have my script in front of me, so I'm going to wing it in terms of the rules. We are here for everybody to chat, participate, and enjoy the streams. As such, we do have a couple rules that we do like to cover. We do have mods in chat. Mods are here to keep chat free of racist, sexist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. I do trust my mods explicitly. So if you are put on a timeout or a ban, I would consult with the mods. This is a fantastic time to remind you, hit that exclamation point Discord in chat and get access to our Discord, just in case you do have any issues with any of the mods. We do encourage questions. This will be a chill stream. So much like our Friday AMA stream, we're just kind of like stretching our stream legs again. You know, we're going to kind of get used to streaming on Mondays now. We used to stream on Wednesdays. You'll notice that this is Old Guy Monday. Apparently Wednesdays are too late in the week for old guys. We got to start doing old guys on Monday before they run out of steam towards the end of the week, or at least that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. We will have Jeff kind of come back and join us on Old Guy Monday, but we will have other old people as well, because we know that I have my son here this week, and I got my first dose of him calling me a boomer. That was quite a shocker to be called a boomer. Anyway, questions are incredibly important to us. As you can start to see, Fasochi dropping the questions in chat. Other people have dropped questions in chat. We do encourage you to drop questions at any point in time. We are streaming live across YouTube, Twitch, and LinkedIn. So drop your questions across any of the platforms at any point in time. Our mods will grab them and they'll push them up on screen, or they'll push random stuff up on screen. Hopefully my magic trick works and you can kind of see my hands are up here. My mods will grab something random off of the off of Twitch, abracadabra, and push it up on screen, just kind of like that. See? Yes, Fixit42 is in the wrong time zone. But so when you talk about asking questions, I promise you that we've got mods that are looking at questions, all the questions that are asked, and they will grab them and they will try to push them up on screen so that everybody gets an opportunity to ask their question. What do we ask questions about? Literally anything in the entire world, anything from cybersecurity to you know, anything career related, anything hacking related, anything that you got going on in life. We can talk about my cancer if you want. We can talk about my golf stuff, which I do have some golf updates for you, and we are going to talk about some golf stuff. But we do have only one rule when it comes to questions. We do ask that you ask the question only once. Asking it more than once may be considered spamming, and you may get a timeout or a ban. With that being said, hope everybody is doing very, very well. Frazier rolling in with the popping off shots. Frazier, you're not that much younger than me. How does it feel to know you were one of the last generations that had a rotary phone? I don't even know how to respond to that. For those who don't know, back in some of the older days, when we actually had phones in houses, I don't know how many of you actually still have phones in houses. If we wanted to talk about SS7 hacking, I did a ton of SS7 hacking while I was in the Air Force, believe it or not. There was an entire unit while I was there that, you know, some of the first hacking that the United States Air Force did was through this unit, and it was hacking the public telephone lines on SS7. Either way, back before they had the little push buttons on telephones, they had rotary phones where you actually stuck your finger in like a little hole for the number, and you turned it this way, and it went click, 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 click. Anyway, those different clicks represented different tones, and that tonage is what dialed the phone number across the lines. Lots of fun stuff that we used to be able to do hacking-wise with telephones, DTMF, dual-tone multi-frequency. Fun story. I was one of the first units to actually have militarized stingrays. If you're not familiar with stingrays, those are kind of the term for the devices that cops use. Believe it or not, cops use a technology called a stingray, whereby they go into a neighborhood with a search warrant, obviously. and they try to, you may have heard it called an IMSI catcher, right? IMSI, where they will basically make their tower the strongest tower in the general vicinity. And so your nifty little cell phone will disconnect from the Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile tower, whatever the case is, and then immediately connect to a cop's Stingray, and that way they can intercept all your cell traffic. We used to use those in Iraq and Afghanistan. We would mount them to the top of Humvees, and we would drive around downtown Iraq and Afghanistan because all of the flip phones that they would use for roadside bombs in Iraq and Afghanistan used DTMF or dual tone multi-frequency to set off those roadside bombs. And so we'd use IMSI catchers, catch those signals, be able to triangulate, save our troops from getting blown up, and then trying to catch some people trying to blow our stuff up. So that's a fun little story on IMSI catchers and some of the stuff we used to do with IMSI catchers and DTM. So see, that rotary phone knowledge, Frazier, wasn't all lost. Mike over in YouTube land, thanks to our folks tuning into us from YouTube, says, I got my Sec Plus last week. Congratulations. My question would be, what would be the next certification on my list for networking? I mean, you know, if you're just chasing certs, go after the Network Plus. Might as well. There's a lot of, you know, a lot of information there. Like, I personally like the CCNA. Listen, I'm not a fan of Network Plus. I'm a fan of CCNA. Somebody mentioned this in Discord the other day. I'm a huge fan of IC&D 1 and IC&D 2. I think you learn so much more from those courses. Thank you for the question. I got too many screens, Brian. Which one am I looking at? I'm looking at this one up here. Have you ever heard of WGU? What do you think is a good option to get, or do you think it's a good option to get your shoulder on? Yeah, we got tons of people inside of the community that have done WGU. I think Sec IT guy was talking to you a little bit. He's currently in WGU. I think WGU is fine. I think, listen, you know, it's too early to be on a soapbox for Sochi. I'm not going to like jump right into soapbox land just yet. But let me say this about WGU, right? WGU is a cert factory university for the most part. I'm not saying 100%, nothing is 100%, but for the most part is a cert factory university, meaning that you're going to go there for a cybersecurity degree, and they're going to be like, take A+, Net+, Sec+, blah, 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 all the way down, and they're going to be, boom, you got a cybersecurity degree. Take it for what it's worth, right? This is why I'm cynical. This is why I harp on degree programs, you know, and just not a fan of degree programs. Pivoting, push that one from Clean Bobby 1 about CCNA. So let me clarify my comments on CCNA real quick on this one, right? Back in my day, God, it's going to be one of those types of things, right? Back in my day, CCNA first started with two courses called IC&D 1 and IC&D 2, Interconnecting Network Devices 1 and Interconnecting Network Devices 2. I could care less about the Cisco part of CCNA, but the networking stuff that was taught about networking in IC&D 1 and IC&D 2 was hands down the best networking stuff that I ever took. So I'm not sure what it's called now. Maybe we've got some of our networking instructors inside of chat. But whatever the new version of IC&D 1 and IC&D 2 is, those are the ones that I think are worth taking. Not necessarily CCNA itself for the Cisco side, the IC&D 1, IC&D 2. Did they get rid of those? Man, that's a shame. I got a mod in my ear telling me they got rid of them. I told you I'm getting to be that old age. Over on LinkedIn, William Moses over on LinkedIn says, been working at InfoSec for 6 years, but looking to go more into security architecture. Thank God. What should I be thinking about when talking with hiring managers to get a good understanding of what the team does and if it would be a good fit for me? That's an excellent question, William. I appreciate that question. So security architecture is incredibly underrated. If you want a really challenging job, I think security architecture can be really challenging because you have to try to find the balance between the business and security needs, right? Now, we've talked about that a lot of times on stream, but I don't think sometimes people fully understand what it means to do that, right? When you think about the day-to-day of a lot of security architecture folks, they should be working with the business because the business is doing IT and other type of stuff on a regular basis. And for the most part, they could be doing it in a vacuum. And so having security architects there to kind of help drive what that end state looks like for organizations, I think is super critical for the security mission. And so if you're looking for good interview type questions, William, that you can ask the hiring manager, I would ask them what type of projects are they currently involved in? It'll give you a sense. What you're looking for is you're looking for them to kind of talk to you about whether the projects that they're involved in are just security related or if they're actually related to what's happening across the entirety of the enterprise. And here's why that's important, right? If they're just security related projects, that would tell me that for the most part, I would make the assumption, right? I would make the assumption that if they only have security related projects, they're struggling to get traction in the organization with how to be involved in that project planning process that would allow them to be successful, if you will, when it came to pushing the security influence throughout the rest of the organization, right? So that would be kind of a question that I would ask too. I would ask them, if they are part of the business, if they do have what's going on, if they do understand what's happening in the business, if they are involved in the business, ask them what their cadence is like, right? How many meetings are they in a regular basis? How many times do they sit with the different business units? Ask them how many times they have to sit on that architectural review board, right? Those types of questions help you understand what that workload is, right? And that may sound super boring, but what it is you're involved. And by being involved, you get to have an opinion, you get to pull at the table. And I think that that's super important for the success of a good security architecture team. And I think that would be the final question that I think I would throw at you to ask them as well, is ask them what the organization's buy-in is, right? When it comes to implementing security processes. Right now, some people may, this is going to be a weird one, right? When you get that answer, you could get the, they're mostly bought in, which that should really kind of be like a key for you. Okay, what do they really mean by are they struggling? Do things get pushed to production without a security buy-in? What's the case in there? So I've worked with some brilliant security architects in the past who, they've had to build relationships, right? So that they're always in the conversations about what's happening in the business. So then whenever the business is like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, or I'm thinking about standing up this technology, or I'm thinking about building this capability, their first call is to the security architects to say, hey, listen, what do you think about this? What are some of the best ways that we can implement this? What are some of the best practices that we can do to make this successful? That's how you know that you've gotten a really good kind of back and forth when it comes to security architecture. But hopefully you get in on that. That's a great opportunity to have to be part of security architecture. So best of luck to you and let us know how it goes. Fasochi, that's a light one for you, Fasochi. How does one deal with a toxic director? I think Frazier responded back to you, find a new job. As cynical as that is, it's not entirely untrue, right? And I know that that's easier said than done, especially when we talk about just how absolutely atrocious the job market is today. I was on the phone earlier with Joe Hudson, which Joe, we've had Joe on the stream before, former recruiter. He's now working over at TCM, over there. And Joe and I were just kind of catching up, and we were lamenting kind of on the state of, really the job economy, the job market, if you will, as a whole. and it's in a terrible state. So what I'm about to tell you is slightly cynical and independent of what the current state of the market is, but you should never ever stay in a job that is toxic, right? And I can tell you that I've been in two. And I've got lessons from both, and it's hard. It's hard because you want to believe that the org can change when in fact it never really does, right? And so, and I'll tell you that there was oh shit, there's a base case over on YouTube. What's going on, base case? Good to see you, Casey. Hope everything's going well for you. I want to tell you about a CISO that I worked for one time, right? Because toxic is weird. I shared this with a coachee of mine. She had just she's just landed, I shouldn't say just, she's been there for a while, landed a pretty senior executive role, and we were talking about toxic leadership. So let's have a small conversation about toxic leadership for a second, right? Do you really know what toxic leadership is? Do any of y'all really think, if you think you know, if you're on LinkedIn, X, Twitch, YouTube, whatever the case is, if you think you have definitions of toxic leadership, drop them into chat. Drop them into chat what you think the definition of toxic leadership is. I encourage everybody to do that. You know, we're not asking you to call anybody out, so don't feel like you're going to get called to the carpet. But if you had to describe characteristics of toxic leadership, drop those characteristics in the chat, right? Because I think that there's a little bit of conversation around the use of the word toxic sometimes, right? Is toxic really a manager having an expectation of you? Or is it narcissism? Is it abuse? Is it, you have to be in the office at the same hours that I am, or else you're not good enough, right? Like, really think about what it is that you're defining toxicity. And there's a reason that I bring this up. There's a reason that I encourage you to vocalize what your definitions of toxicity are, is because sometimes what you're calling toxicity might not actually be toxicity. And I know that might be a hot take for some of you, but let's think about this. So, and I'll use myself as an example, right? It's hard for me to give this example without giving away people or locations, and so I'm just not going to say it, but it's real easy to determine when and where this happened. So, it's not that hard, right? I worked for a CISO who was very much the peacock of the organization, right? And they were good at it, right? They could handle the politics, they could handle the outside face of cybersecurity, and they could do it really, really well. They were really amazing at that. And they handled the political landscape of this organization superbly. As such, he needed a right-hand man that could be his technical fact checker, if you will. And so me and our security architect, we kind of formed this like three amigos. Andrew Tuttle hanging out over in YouTube chat. Good to see you, Andrew. Hope you're doing good over there. Make sure you go check out Andrew and his team at Prelude. Love Andrew. Andrew's amazing. But anyway, so we kind of formed this like team of three amigos, if you will, between the CISO, me running the security operations team, and the security architect, right? And so there were lots of times where he would go to meetings and there'd be technical conversations, and he would either defer to us or he would, we would take it back and we'd all talk internally, and then he'd go forth. Either way, like we've, kind of the three of us ran cohort around like trying to solve a lot of this organization's problems. Couple years into, this was I'd been there for I think it was there for 3 years total as a whole. I think by year 2.5, right, we were all very confident. Like, I'd established myself as kind of being the SME when it came to security. You know, I was the go-to for the CISO for a lot of stuff. We had planned a trip to Romania, and he was supposed to go. He chose not to. I didn't find this out. I was literally Sunday, I'd gotten on a plane because I always flew Sunday night to Romania. I'd sleep on the plane, wake up at 8 o'clock in the morning in Romania time, and then immediately go to the office, right? My admin had sent me an email message when I arrived in Bucharest first thing in the morning, and it was like, hey, you know, the boss isn't going to be in Bucharest with you. You're there on your own. Go forth and conquer. I'm like, okay, you know what? That's fine. His travel schedule changes pretty frequently. There's no big deal for that. So I landed in Bucharest. I go to the office, start working with the team. We're working. We get done after a long day in the office. Remember, I just spent all night on a plane. It was eight plus hours, I think, to fly to Romania. We go to dinner that night. And he calls me up on the phone. He's like, hey, Neil, what are you doing? I'm like, we're just having dinner with the team. We had a great day in the office. Here's what we did, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, hey, are you coming back on Wednesday for this event where blah, blah, blah executives were going to be? And I was like, no, I hadn't planned on it. I planned on being here all week to support the team. And he was like, no, I need you to get on a plane. I need you to get on the next available flight and come home. Because he needed me to present at that conference. So think about that for a second. Was that toxic behavior? At the moment, I thought it was. At the moment, I was beyond pissed. In the heat of the moment, I was F this guy. This is horrible. Why would you do this? Like, you know, I was just incredibly off the rails. Matter of fact, when I flew back to the States, did the presentation he wanted me to do the presentation for, and I was convinced I was going to quit. I was absolutely convinced I was going to quit. In hindsight, what I would tell you is that wasn't toxic behavior at all. I was wrong. I can hear the screams of 1,000 people in my ear right now. I was wrong. I had set an expectation, right? So one of the comments in chat is toxic equals unrealistic expectations. I had set an expectation about myself, about my capabilities, about my value to this CISO and this organization. I had set an expectation that I would always be there to be part of that Three Amigos clan, to support his deficiencies to make us a successful team as a whole. I had set that expectation. So in honesty, I was mad at him for doing exactly what we had all agreed to do, which was whatever we could to make the organization successful. Right? And so therefore, when he called me up, he realized that he needed his SME, he needed his right-hand man to show the best face possible. And my value to the organization was by his side and not in Romania. And so I bring that story up to say sometimes what we think is toxic in the moment, what we think doesn't align with our current mood or our current standing, may seem toxic, But in reality, it may just be a function of the environment. It may just be a function of the events. It may just be a function of an expectation that you have set as a team member. And so we oftentimes talk about toxic leadership as being unrealistic expectations from our leaders, but sometimes we set expectations about our work performance that do get taken as a standard. And like it or not, that doesn't make leadership toxic if as a team, as a cohesive unit, you've set an expectation that you can be counted on. Think about that for a second. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think that there are toxic leaders out there. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that toxic leaders aren't toxic, but one of the first things I want to talk about when we talk about toxic leadership is identifying truly what toxic leadership looks like, right? Is your voice being heard? Right? Is there discourse being sown amongst your peers? Now, what do I mean by that? I knew a CIO once who would pit her entire her entire subordinate group, her direct reports, which was the CISO and a bunch of other, peers in the organization, that in the meeting would treat it like a cage fight. Oh, I heard such and such said this about your security program, Neil. What do you have to say about that? In the middle of a staff meeting, this would happen. Right? That's what I view as toxic leadership, because they're intentionally trying to create almost this fighting mentality. Hey, look over here. There's wrong things happening over here. Don't look over here at these wrong things that are happening over here, right? That type of stuff. Hey, let's bury the important stuff and let's only talk about the stuff that makes us look good, right? That type of stuff. Just be careful how you define toxic leadership, because I think that people use that a little too liberally for what it actually means. So not quite a soapbox item for Sochi. At the heart of it, if you're in a toxic relationship, it will always be find yourself a different relationship. There's lots of, fundamentally on a leadership level, there's a lot of things that we could talk about when it comes to leadership. I want you to understand one important part about leadership, and this is going to trigger some people. There is no right or wrong way to be a leader. There is no right or wrong way to be a leader. And that's definitely going to trigger a lot of people. I accept that. Feel free to drop your triggered comments into chat. Let your triggeredness be heard by the ethers across all the platforms. But you have to realize and you have to accept that leadership that may not work for you might actually work for somebody else. Think about that for a second. You might very well be so utterly appalled by the way a leader acts, but there might be somebody on that team who looks at that leader and thinks that they are God's gift to the organization. And that doesn't make them right or wrong. It just makes them not the right leader for you. So don't be so quick to cast blame, especially if you yourself are not yet in a leadership position. It's probably one of the most subtle soapboxes I think I've ever been on. Cybertie says, I'm considering transferring from community college to WGU. Do you see any benefits of finishing out an associate's? You should always finish what you started. You should always finish what you started. That is the mark of a person with integrity, is when they finish what they started. That's all I got to say about that. Thoughts on using resume builder sites to check your ATS score. Also looking forward to the next resume review. Thank you. Yes, as with these starting up, I do want to remind me of that. Remind me we got to talk about the scheduling changes. Yes. We will do more resume reviews. I do genuinely enjoy them. By the way, I want to give a huge shout out to Rachel Skillman and the Skill Dev team. They have been helping me get the new website up and running, which has a revised resume rubric in it. I think it's resumes, right, team in chat, that you can do to get to the resume rubric? Yeah, thank you, resume. There we go. If you are interested in, self-assessing your resume, make sure you do check out the resume rubric that got posted in chat, right? Make sure you check out the resume rubric. Thoughts on resume builder sites to check your ATS scores. The ATS is a double-edged sword. I have a lot of negative things to say about this, and I'm trying to span out the negativity. I do not believe that tailoring your resume for ATS in the way that most people tailor their resume for ATS is an effective way at getting jobs. I did an entire video on this. Right? I think if you check whatever the video is for 1,000 Connect Challenge, right? That video talks about the percentage of people who actually get a job by absolutely submitting their resume blind to an application. It is like less than single digit percentages of ever landing a job by blind sending your resume out. And that has nothing to do with ATS or not. And it has everything to do with just how absolutely atrocious it is to try and apply for a job from the outside of an organization in. And so, ATS aside, sending out 1,000 applications a day to random posts on LinkedIn is quite literally the most inefficient way to go about job hunting. Hands down, period. It is statistically proven. As a matter of fact, the things that I've been telling you guys for years, literally, you realize we're in June. It's been 4 years since we've been doing cyber insecurity. 4 years. I love you. I'm so happy. I'm so happy to have my mods for 4 years. We've been streaming hard for 4 years. We've got a loyal following. I love it. Right? It is, you see more and more and more people admitting and acknowledging that the number one success factor in getting a job is networking. Every day of the week. All those people who hated on me for my 1,000 Connect Challenge, you see them dropping posts on LinkedIn like, hey, let's talk about the value of networking to get your job. You know why? Because I was right. Because I was right 4 years ago when I told you guys. I was right 3 years ago when I was on David's channel telling you. I was right when I told you that 2 years ago when I was doing resume reviews. I was right last year when I told you that when I did more resume reviews, and I'm right this year. The number one way that you're going to get a job is through networking. And so I don't put value into resume builder sites that check your ATS score because, quite frankly, blind applying for roles and then trying to min-max your resume to some artificial system that's just looking for keywords is got to be bamboo shoots in the fingernails process of going about looking for a job. Hands down. Hands down. Right? And so no, you'll never get my buy-in on these resume builder sites. You'll never get my buy-in in terms of tailoring your resume for ATS scores. You'll never, ever, ever get my buy-in on that, because I think it is the way in human history to try to get a job. That may have worked in the 80s or the 90s or the early 2000s, but in today's day and age, when you put a job up on LinkedIn and it gets 40,000 applicants in a day, they're not using ATS because they... Listen, do you think recruiters don't know about ChatGPT? Do you think recruiters don't know about resume builder sites that use ATS? Hold on, I'm about to blow up. I'm about to blow up some of y'all's expectations of the recruiting process. If I got recruiters in chat, keep me honest on this, right? When I was working for companies and I put up a job posting, I already knew who I was going to hire. HR said to me, we just have to put this up for the equal employment opportunity laws. So when you see these job postings with 40,000 applicants on them, good effing luck. Because I can almost guarantee you that not a single one of those applicants are getting looked at, and that job posting was up there so that HR could come back and say, hey, we put it up there. We got 40,000 applicants. This person was the one we chose. Equal employment opportunity laws met. Right? So don't think that just because you see a job on LinkedIn that you blindly applying for it and having your resume match to ATS is going to magically make you a qualified candidate. Jonathan over on LinkedIn says, what's an ATS score? So you know how some people will, and this is even on the resume rubric, will put like skills, and it'll be like Microsoft, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and then they'll have Metasploit, Kali Linux, Arch Linux, and they'll list every freaking technology for like a mile under the sun. That's so that when that resume goes into a computer program and they scan it for words, if they get a job posting, they'll see some magic number that says like 70% match to this job posting. And then there's this crazy belief. There's this crazy belief that job applicants have. It's like, oh, if I'm a 99% match, then I'll get the job. Like, some of y'all are Delulu. Y'all know that dude from TikTok? Delulu is not the Salulu, right? Some of y'all are Delulu in terms of how you think that this job process works. Look, I got somebody from YouTube saying LMAO, true that. I got somebody in Twitch saying, right, that's how we used to do it. Like I'm telling you guys the truth. Like, this is very not boomer of you to say Delulu. Listen, that dude's I introduced my son to the Delulu guy. We were having a slang conversation at dinner the other night, and I introduced him to the Delulu guy. So I was pretty proud of the fact that I got to introduce my whatever he is, whatever generation he is, to the Delulu guy. Delulu is not the Salulu. Quote me on that. But listen, like, so no, you'll never get my buy-in. What's wrong? I mean, what's wrong with that? Delulu's a good, man. That's a good one, man. That's a good one. I like it. No, do not tailor your resume to the ATS. There are better ways. Oh, I love all the questions coming in. We got lots of questions coming in. Make sure you keep your questions coming in across all the platforms. This is a chill stream. What drink is that? Looks fire. This is not a product placement. These guys don't sponsor the stream. I'm not endorsing this product. They didn't pay me to say anything about it. I'm drinking it because it's good. This is Roar Organic, right? So complete hydration, lots of vitamins. You know, Carmen and I have a very healthy lifestyle ever since my cancer diagnosis, and then doubling down with trying to make it to the PGA. You know, very much trying to put good stuff into my body. And so I've got my electrolytes water here to help, you know, hydration. And then since I'm up here during dinner time, use this one to supplement with some vitamins and minerals so that I can stay hyped for you all. Love it. Love it. Thank you, mods. On point. You guys are awesome. Let's talk about how the hell are you? I'm gonna answer this one from Space Tacos. Good to see you again, Space Tacos. I missed you. Let's talk about the stream schedule super fast, and then I'll answer this question. You'll notice we're here streaming on a Monday. Holy shit, Neil's streaming on a Monday. You've noticed that we've added a Tuesday, every other Tuesday to the schedule, right? So let's talk about the stream schedule for a little bit. Yes, we are attempt number 2 or 3 or 4, I can't figure out, at trying to create a new stream schedule. Let's have a real conversation. This will kind of tie into the how the hell are you question, right? I'm awesome. I'll never not be awesome, right? But I can tell you that it's been rough last 2 years. Do you all realize that in September we'll be coming up on 2 years of a cancer diagnosis? 2 years. And I want to put it in even more of a perspective. And this is going to blow some of y'all's mind. If I hadn't gotten treatment when I got treatment, I'd have been dead a year ago. Put that in perspective. So I'm grateful to still be here with you today. With that being said, like, we've had a couple fits and starts when it came to, you know, trying to get the streams back up and running. Arguably so, like, dealing with cancer has been, you know, an interesting endeavor to try to contend with, to say the least. You know, and then trying to figure out how best to be a golfer has also been a struggle. Golfing is hard. By any stretch of the imagination, golfing is hard. Trying to play competitive at the level that I'm trying to play competitive at has proven to be one of the foremost challenges of my life. I would argue to say that trying to be a professional golfer is harder than fighting cancer. It is so hard. And maybe not. That's a little bit of an exaggeration. It's pretty hard. The mental side of golf has helped me prepare for the mental challenges that I've had to adhere to in dealing with cancer. Right? That's a pretty fair statement. I'll say that one, right? Being able to be patient, being able to accept that things are going to happen, right? Being able to take on the challenges that cancer has thrown in front of me, regardless of what the outcomes have been, has been the biggest learning that I've had from golf. Because you can't change, like, the ball has already landed. I've already got cancer. I can't undo that, right? And so it does me no good to yell, scream, and complain. So the last 2 years, I haven't yelled, screamed, and complained about having cancer because there's nothing that yelling, screaming, and complaining over the last 2 years was going to do me. So anyway, I say all that to say it's been really hard to try to balance cancer, golf, working at a startup, and the stream. And I want to give a huge thanks. Like everybody put your hands together across all the platforms for the mod team, right? Ben and Brian, Jack, Josh, the entirety of the mod team has been literally my closest allies and my best friends for the last 4 years. I don't count Chris. We don't count. Why'd you even bring Chris into this? Dudes from Florida. We don't count the dudes from Florida. Just saying. Right? They've kept me honest. They've kept me sane when I've tried to like push myself further. Those are the guys who kept me honest and made sure that I was mentally and physically ready to start streaming. Right? And so a huge shout out to my mods for keeping me honest, true friends. And we've all came together and discussed it. And I think that I'm finally in a place to where I can come back to streaming on a regular basis, not just these fits and starts you've seen. So you kind of saw part of that. We've started up a new stream on Thursday nights. We've moved Wednesday from Old Guy Wednesday to Old Guy Monday. And that's really to kind of give me some time between streams, if you will. So we'll stream on Monday, we'll stream on Friday, and then every other week we'll stream on Thursday, you know, for the Sec Data Ops stuff. And so a lot of that is really just kind of trying to space a lot of that out. I'm finding my footing, being able to manage all this stuff at once. Believe it or not, I still struggle with a lot of this, you know, in terms of like how to navigate all these different types of things. And so, you know, it's been interesting. It's been a fun ride. I do love talking about it. But the goal is we'll have Old Guy Monday, and I'm still in conversation to see which of my old guys are going to come and join me on the regular. I'm hoping Andrew over on YouTube, who's watching right now, you know, he's a good friend. He's been with me through a lot of this. I'd love to get Andrew to come in here and chat with us, you know, pretty frequently, as well as Jeff. Jeff's got a new job, left Carbon Black. He's now over at Proof Point. Hoping we can get him to come back on the show and come and chat with us for a while. But we're going to get back in the swing of things. I've got some great interviews lined up. I've got some awesome interviews lined up that I'm super excited about sharing with you. I've met so many great people through this process. I met another CISO at a startup, and we immediately hit it off in terms of some of the challenges that we have about being a CISO at a startup. That I can't wait to share with you. I know we've got a ton of GRC folks. Speaking of GRC folks, we got Space Tacos. Can you push the one about the garbage jobs from Space Tacos up there, Brian? Joel and I were on a stream long time ago. It felt like so long ago. It was like 2 years ago, where we talked about garbage jobs, GRC being one of those garbage jobs. You know, Space Tacos embodied that advice that we had given, went out and, you know, landed a great GRC job. You know, I met an awesome CEO in the GRC space that has got an amazing perspective on GRC that I want to bring on the show and have you guys introduced to them. And we can talk about GRC in addition to all the regular content that we have as well. So, thanks for tuning in on a Monday night. I'm not done yet. That's not a sign off. But thank you for tuning in on Monday night. We're going to have more of these, but I'm excited. I'm excited to come back to it. I've missed talking to you all on the regular basis. I love streaming. I miss you. I miss you from the heart. I miss all of you. I love your questions. With that being said, I did bring this. So since we talked last, I do want to talk about a golf message really quick, because back in this line of how are you, my golf game is freaking so much better. I had, if you remember last time we streamed, not a Sec Data Ops stream, I was going off to a 2-day weekend at the beach. One of the tournaments that we competed in was Crow Creek. We caught the W team. If you checked out Instagram, you saw we got the W at Crow Creek. That's 2. If you remember, beginning of the year, I told you what the New Year's resolution was. The New Year's resolution was 2 wins this year. We got them. 2 weeks ago, Memorial Day weekend, we got that second win at Crow Creek. Shot one of the best games of my life. I was so happy for it. And then I got this. I got an invitation, personal invitation in the mail for the RDU Masters tournaments. Could not believe it. Very, very exclusive event. And you see it came in on you know, almost a handwritten note. I was super excited to get that. So in 2 weekends, not this weekend, but next weekend, I'll be competing in the RDU Masters tournament. Super nervous about that. There's a lot of single-digit handicap folks that are going to be in that, and they are good. I've been scoping them out on Instagram. Speaking of which, hit that exclamation point socials. You know, follow me along on my golf journey on Instagram. I do appreciate all the support. The folks who message me on Instagram when it's tournament weekend make me feel super special. So I do appreciate that. But be on the lookout. Be on the lookout. We're gonna push really hard for this. We're gonna see how much we can do on that. We're gonna try to put some dent into that RDU Master stuff. I'm awesome. Thank you for asking. Love it. Love it. Open-ended question here, more of a discussion. Pontificate on AI and cybersec, the symbiotic relationship and the future. I love this. Thank you very much for phrasing it that way. I really do appreciate it. We have talked a little bit about AI and cybersecurity over the last year. I've had several folks on stream. We've talked notionally about AI and cybersecurity. There's definitely a lot to pontificate here. And please, like, again, if you're new to chat, if you're listening but not participating, which is totally fine, but you're on the fence about joining, like, you know, you'll see people chat all the time. Feel free to drop your opinions, agreeing or disagreeing with me, into chat and get the opinions of other folks as well. This question came in from YouTube, but you can kind of see the Twitch chat here on screen. Feel free to go back and forth on this question as you see fit, but I have an interesting perspective on the symbiotic relationship of AI and cybersec. Now, this is vastly different than a year ago. Absolutely, or 2 years ago even. If you were on this stream 4 years ago, if you're back that long when we were streaming 4 years ago, I was very cynical. I was very bearish when we talk about, you know, marketing terms on the role of cybersec and AI. It was just very, very immature, very, very young, and very nascent, right? In its overall existence in the world, let alone cybersecurity, right? I think ChatGPT changed that. And let me clarify what I mean by that, because I've said that and people go, oh, ChatGPT is not real AI. Hold on for a second. What I mean by ChatGPT changing that is because it became a household name. And I've said this before on this stream, is that when you make a concept a household name, it shows a level of consumer adoption that is a form of maturity in the marketplace. And so I very much believe that by making it something that you could go out on the street and to relatively probably 50% of the population, if you said ChatGPT to or OpenAI, they would know what it is you're talking about. If you said most cybersecurity terms to people out on the street, they wouldn't have the foggiest idea what you're talking about. Seriously, think about that for a second. And so when you put that in perspective, you realize just how much more mature the topical adoption of AI is versus even something like cybersecurity. All right? So with that being said, I do think we've seen a major leap forward in the socialization or the social acceptance, if you will, of AI in our normal talk track or even our normal day-to-day lives, right? Now let's talk about how it pertains to cybersecurity. The number one question that will always get asked, dude, the amount of times that I get asked if I think cybersecurity is going to take entry-level jobs, if I think cybersecurity is going to replace pen testers, do I think cybersecurity is going to replace blue teamers, right? If you think all of that, I think that shows a fundamental lack of understanding of how AI is going to transform your life, right? If your entire focus is the Chicken Little, the sky is falling because of AI, I definitely think you're part of the problem, not the solution. There, I said it. Let the hate flow through you. I'll channel my inner Darth Vader. Right? AI is not going to replace your job. AI is not going to replace technology, modern technology as you see it. The amount of AI that I've seen incorporated. Has anybody paid attention to the news and seen this Microsoft recall thing? Right? Does anybody not remember Google having to pull down 90% of Gemini's code because they completely messed it up? Right? Like the amount of just general F-ups that we've had around the use of AI in non-cybersecurity topics proves how actually far away we are from having any meaningful use out of AI in cybersecurity. Period. Dot. End of discussion. Right? And so I think, now that's enough of the doom and gloom. Let's flip the script a little bit, right? Where do I see the future of AI helping? Because I have a belief. Yeah, I didn't see it yet, BeardSec, for Apple Intelligence. I wanted to. I'm worried it's going to be another Vision Pro. Let me tell you what my hope is when it comes to AI and cybersecurity, right? All my SOC analysts in the room, drop some notes in chat. Let us know that you're there if you're a SOC analyst, right? And when I mean a SOC analyst or an incident responder, anything like that, you all are the unsung heroes of a security organization. And when I say that, the SOC analyst, the incident responder, they are, hands down, the frontline soldiers every day guarding an organization. Every day they are guarding the organization, which means they are taking cyber bullets to the face every day to protect an organization. And it doesn't matter what technology you give them. It doesn't matter how much SOAR or automation or anything like that you put in front of them. They are going to keep taking a wet tuna across the face every day. And so I do have a fundamental belief that if AI were going to be successful anywhere, it needs to be successful in helping that frontline analyst. Just like drones have helped on the front lines of warfare in modern day, AI needs to help the SOC analysts on a day-to-day basis. That's my desire. That's my pontification on where I see the best symbiotic relationship between AI and cybersecurity is if they can help the frontline soldiers day in and day out protect an organization. That's where I would like to see it, right? What does that look like? Man, I don't know that I have the cognitive capacity to envision what that would look like at some point in time in the future. What I do think is it takes too long, and there are too many things coming at a SOC analyst on a day-to-day basis for them to close the OODA loop. Do we have a video on OODA loop? I can't remember if we did a video on OODA loop or not. Oh, God. Beard Sex on point. God, I love him. Beard Sex on point. Beard Sex beats to it, Jack. Beard Sex beats to it. It takes too long in the OODA loop, and you can go check out the video that just got dropped into chat. If you don't know what the OODA loop is, the SOC analyst OODA loop is too long. And so what I would like to see is I'd like to see AI speed that up. I saw a Sec IT guy said, I want AI to take over the documentation process. I think AI today could take over the documentation process. I think it could. Like, I have used AI for documentation. I'm evaluating a GRC platform right now for query, where there's a lot of AI to help with evidence gathering, evidence collection, evidence presenting to auditors. And it's actually really, really good. And so I think people have stopped trying to shove AI. Maybe I shouldn't say that, unequivocally. I think people have realized that shoving AI into a product and sticking AI into a name doesn't necessarily make it useful. But as people have sat back and said, okay, what can we realistically do with AI that makes it more efficient for a person to do their job? People have come back and said, aha, here's a way that we can use AI, and it can be very, very targeted, very, very specific, very well trained on the model, and therefore useful to an analyst. And I think documentation, I think GRC, back to Space Tacos and their love for GRC and to all my GRC fans that we do have in chat across all the platforms, I do think that AI in the GRC space is probably the closest we have to the beginning of the benefits that we'll see for AI and cybersecurity. But I think if you're afraid that AI is going to take your job as a pen tester, then you are unequivocally clueless on how a pen tester does their job. If you think that that AI is going to take your role as a SOC analyst, then A, you're completely uninformed about what the role of a SOC analyst is or what they do on a day-to-day basis, and just the sheer amount of hallucinations and errors that exist in AI make it completely unacceptable for it to be on the front lines for a SOC analyst. But I do have hope for the future. I do have hope for the future. Oh. Feel free to drop follow-up questions to that one. I do love pontificating on AI now. This is not a plug for Query, but we are, our name is query.ai, and our co-founder has got several patents around NLP. And even the first version of Query that I saw back in 2020 had some great NLP built into it, but we shelved it because we weren't really good at our core mission. Now we're starting to come back around to that AI piece, and that's the approach that we've taken with AI is like, okay, we don't want to just shove AI into something. Let's try to make it useful, right? And I think that that's the approach that a lot of people are taking with AI. That's what I hope people continue to do. I'm going to read that one not on the screen. I'm going to read that one from the queue, Brian. Stoic XO. Stoic asked a very good question in chat. I saw it, and I meant to explain that. He had asked, hey, where can I get some one-on-one time with Neil? If you're on LinkedIn, go to my profile on LinkedIn and you'll see a link for TopMate where you can get some coaching. We do resume reviews. We'll do some one-on-one training. We do mock interviews. You can have 30 minutes to an hour time with me. BeardSec just dropped the link into Twitch chat. If you're on YouTube, we'll get somebody to drop the link over on YouTube. But if you are in need of some one-on-one time with me, and there are people in chat who have taken that one-on-one time with me, there's people in Discord who have taken that one-on-one time with me, there are other influencers, you all would be surprised if I told you other influencers that you're used to seeing in this space who take coaching time with me. If you think that you are above or below coaching, you don't understand the role that coaching has. Everybody needs coaches. Your coach needs coach. I have 2 coaches that I use for golf, right? My coach, my PGA coach for golf still has a PGA coach. Everybody needs coaches. You are not above or below needing a coach, no matter where you are in your career. And so, you know, don't minimize your need for assistance. If you need assistance, reach out and let's chat. Stoic says, how can I get pen testing experience after my OSCP? Not so much for technical skills, not my main goal, but to get some hands-on with the actual organization in my free time. I don't mind being an intern when I'm off work. I'm trying to learn the process from start to end. I have plans on how to get more hacking practice, but I need to learn how to scope and so forth for a company before pen test begins. I also need to learn how to close it with a report. Sounds like you are an excellent candidate for bug bounties. Today, right now, listen to my voice. If this is you, if you hearing that question are like, oh my God, that's exactly the scenario that I've got. I really like to get some more of this. Open up 2 browser tabs right now. In one browser tab, I want you to go to HackerOne. And in the other browser tab, I want you to go to BugCrowd. We turned off the gig one because, well, I'll explain that one here in a second, basically, we turned off the gig one. I'll explain the gig one here in a little bit. But in 2 browser tabs, one I want you to go to BugCrowd, one I want you to go to HackerOne. I've said it before, there's a great YouTube short on there. Bug bounties are just unpaid pen test. And thank you to all of you that got that joke. For those of you who didn't get the joke, I'm going to pause for those who got the joke to finish laughing internally, and then I'll explain it to you. Okay. Bug bounties, you have a scope, you execute the pen test, and you have to write a report, just like any other pen test. Right? Used to be, it's just like any other pen test, right? You're going to go sign up for a bounty, and it's going to tell you, you can test these things. That's your scope. You're going to go and perform some tests. And if you find a vulnerability, you're going to write a report on it. Okay, Neil, but what's the joke behind the unpaid pen test? Because if you don't find anything, you're not going to get paid. But that is okay. That's literally the exact same thing that happens out in the real world. You could do a pen test and you could not find anything. And that is okay. If you are under the illusion that every time you do a pen test, you have to or are going to find a bug or a vulnerability or something like that, again, see rule 1. You are delusional and don't understand what the role is of a pen tester. They do not always find stuff. And so you can go get anybody who hears my voice today who wants real-world pen testing experience can open up the 2 tabs that I just mentioned, one for BugCrowd, one for HackerOne. They can sign up today. It doesn't cost you anything. They don't ask for references. They don't check your experience. They don't validate whether you have OSCP. Do you get my point? You, across all these platforms who hears my voice, can sign up right now and start doing pen testing. Today. Period. Dot. And you can get experience scoping a pen test, executing a pen test, and if you find a bug, writing a report for a pen test. Period. Dot. End of discussion. Push that follow. Yeah, very valid statement for base case. A zero finding pen test is still a valid pen test. Push that other one from Stoic. I want to follow up with that one that was just mentioned there as well. My issue with bug bounties is that I don't have to engage in meetings with stakeholders. I think that's a difficult part for me. Very valid point. But if we looked at it in terms of a checklist of 1 through 5 items, if you can get 4 from bug bounty, 4 is greater than 0. I know that that's complicated math for a lot of people, but 4 is greater than 0. You have to remember that, right? Some of you sometimes think that it has to be the whole enchilada, and I love enchiladas just as much as the next person, but I also love the ingredients of an enchilada, and I don't mind eating the ingredients of an enchilada separately if I can't have the tortilla shell, right? And so don't be afraid to move the ball down somebody use a football reference here, right? Move the ball down the goal line to get closer to your goal. It doesn't have to be a touchdown every single time. I think I got that sports reference right. I love it. I love it. Andrew over on YouTube says, regarding bug bounties, document your steps, what you did, your thought process, how much time you spent, etc. Package it up, make it look nice. I want everybody to pay attention to this comment from Andrew. Why? Because Andrew worked at Synac. What do you think Synac does? Bug bounties, right? Crowdsourced pen testing. Do you think Andrew may have something that he may know about good processes and ways to do that? Andrew Tuttle, go find him on LinkedIn. He's an amazing individual. Great, great resource. He did work at Synac, so that's fantastic advice from Andrew. Two-minute explanation of what a SOC analyst does for real, not what they tell you on YouTube. Oh, God. I was having this conversation with Joe today as well about how nuts social media has gotten in its glamorization, sensationalization of cybersecurity. What does a SOC analyst do? So I want to preface what a SOC analyst does with a little bit of a caveat, right? There is no universal definition. And I say that because a SOC analyst that works in a SOC like at WePro or Accenture or Cognizant or these big, almost call center type organizations is going to be different than, say, the SOC analyst that I employed at any of the companies that I've worked at, right? It's not that they're different. It's not that one is better than the other. It's not that one has a different set of experience or more experience. It's just that the business models were different between the two. And I think that's what some of the, Jens says it best in Twitch chat in that first line, right? Think outside the box, right? We do not have standardized job descriptions across the myriad of landscape that is cybersecurity. I talk to a lot of product people every day. Not just at Query, but, I consult for a lot of product folks. And it's amazing how they use this term persona, and they try to go and say, well, Neil, I need to know the persona of a SOC analyst. Okay, I'll tell them the persona of a SOC analyst. Well, that sounds like a persona of an incident responder. Part of that sounds like the persona of a threat hunter. It sounds like they're kind of merged together. What's the difference? And that's what I'm trying to explain to you, is that, like, if you treat SOC analyst like a bucket, that's right, personas are the worst, right? Let's classify a SOC analyst for the purpose of answering this question, right? Generally speaking, the SOC is a security operations center. In a security operations center, they are in charge of the day-to-day running, aka the operations, of the security org. What does that mean? Well, there are lots of things that go into the running of a security organization. Vulnerability management, penetration testing, threat hunting, incident response, right? All of these represent functional areas of a security operations team. Functional areas. We're talking about the function that a SOC performs. And so a SOC analyst is usually the lowest tier individual or the frontline troops, the boots on the ground, if you will, person that performs a functional responsibility inside of a SOC. So you can have a SOC analyst that is on the IR team whose day-to-day life is watching red blinky lights, if you will, on a console. And when one of those lights turns from green to red, they try to figure out why it turned from green to red, and they begin an investigation, oftentimes referred to as an incident response. And if there ends up being an incident there, maybe they handle it, maybe they pass it off to an actual incident responder, who knows, right? This again gets into org differences, how big is the org, what their responsibilities are, and things like that. And so if I were to take a step back and answer the question, at the end of the day, in the most general sense of a SOC analyst, what their day-to-day is, what their explanation is there's somebody who runs most of the tactical level task in a functional organization of a SOC. You hear most people use a SOC analyst interchangeably with an incident responder or a threat analyst or a security engineer level 1, right? And at the end of the day, what I would say is a SOC analyst protects the organization because they're looking for bad and they're trying to decide how to respond to bad. I wouldn't say that, Vulture. Here's a cynical take. And again, for my folks who need a crash course in cynicism, this is not a blanket statement. There's a reason we call it cynicism. A SOC analyst is the equivalent of help desk in our industry. I've said this before. I've made no qualms about this. If you're looking for the help desk equivalent of where to get into cybersecurity, you should be looking for one of those SOC analyst roles. We have a lot of people in this community. Go on Discord, ask Bayou Beast, go find Orcs Bakes Cakes, right? Their first roles in cybersecurity coming from their different industries, and none of them came from a tech background, right? Orcs Bakes Cakes was a police officer in the Army. Their first roles were SOC analyst because, quite frankly, that is the tier-to-tier equivalent for the level of expertise. Almost no expertise needed to be a SOC analyst, almost no expertise needed to be help desk. But it is a great stepping stone because you see so much. In that same vein, go ask those two people that I told you to go ask. Ask them what they saw in their first year as a level 1 SOC analyst. You will learn more. I guarantee you, I'll bet you a paycheck on this. You will learn more about the cybersecurity industry. You'll learn more about cybersecurity as a whole spending 1 year sitting in a SOC analyst role than you can any other job in our industry. Period. Dot. You'll learn risk. You'll learn more about red teaming and pen testing. You'll learn more about the adversary. You'll learn more about malware. You will learn more about everything in our industry than any other job by spending 1 year as a SOC analyst. I believe I believe that if we could conscript military service for cybersecurity, everybody should be conscripted into a SOC analyst. Period. Dot. If you disagree with me, drop it in chat. If you agree with me, drop it in chat. But I hands down believe this. Awesome. Awesome. All right. Well, man, it's been a good night. It's been a good night. I think this is a good run for a Monday. I'll ask one of the mods to look for somebody to raid on Twitch. Fixit42, make yourself known if you're doing some try hack me. Make yourself known if you're streaming right now. We'll come say hi to you. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who comes and tunes in to these streams. Come here every Monday. We'll be here every Monday. This week, we're streaming 3 times this week. 3 times this week. We got tonight. We got Sec Data Ops on Thursday. Come learn about tons of blue streaming or blue teaming questions tonight. If you're interested in kind of the convergence of blue team and data operations, make sure you tune in Thursday to Sec Data Ops, where we kind of talk really in-depth technical about that convergence. We're going to be kind of going over the Reinforced Conference. Oh, speaking of which, if anybody hears my voice and you're in Philly, Philadelphia, PA, tomorrow and Wednesday, hit me up. Free coaching. I don't say that very often, but if you catch me in person at an event, you can absolutely get free coaching from me in person at an event. And I will be in Philly starting tomorrow for 24 hours. So if you catch me in Philly, free coaching. All right. With that being said, make sure you tune in today. Well, you did tune in today. See what I did there? Thursday, Friday for day stream. My mods are telling me there's no good raid target, which is unfortunate. Seems like, you know, we're not seeing as many good cybersecurity streamers, you know, that we can go raid. It's unfortunate. Might be code for some of y'all to start creating some content. We'd love to support you. We're definitely down for supporting some other streamers. I guess I'll call it a night then. I'm almost afraid to sign off. I missed you guys. Okay, all right, enough of that. Whether you're on the red side or the blue side, we're still deciding. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, there it is.
Let me get away. I don't got nowhere to go. I ain't got nothing to say. I've been trying to take it back to the time of